The USSR. It's the largest country in the world, a sixth of the world's surface. It's so big that the sun never sets on it. It crosses 11 time zones. When it's dusk in Vladivostok, the sun is already rising in Moscow. So large that while in the north it snows in midsummer, it's hot enough in the south for dates to ripen on the palm trees. A population of more than 270 million. 100 different ethnic groups, 100 different languages, a great variety of people and cultures. Our visit was to find out what life is like for some of the ordinary people who live and work in this extraordinary country. Our journey took us to Bratsk in the snowy wastes of Siberia, Krasnodar on the Caucasian plains, Sochi and Odessa on the Black Sea, Kiev in the Ukraine. It began in the Russian capital, Moscow. Moscow's skyline is instantly familiar, as well known as those of New York and Paris. The old Moscow of narrow cobbled roads and small houses has long ago given way to broad streets and high-rise buildings. The population of Moscow is nearly 8 million. With the generous cooperation of the Soviet State Committee for Radio and Television, we were able to go into many homes and places of work and meet some of the people. Lydia Altonikova is a bus driver, one of 300 women bus drivers employed at Trolley Bus Park number 1. Lydia's been a bus driver all her working life, and she says she likes it so much she's never wanted to change. Women in the workforce are paid the same as men. Lydia's salary for a 40-hour, 5-day week is 150 rubles a month, and she gets 4 weeks paid annual holiday. A ruble is worth nearly $1.50, so her salary comes to about $225. Now, it doesn't sound much by affluent Western standards, but the comparison is deceptive. For example, her income tax is less than 6%, so she keeps most of her salary. Medical and health care is free. Basic foods are relatively cheap. Many other services that Westerners expect to pay for are provided to all Soviet citizens by the state. You put in the money and pull out your own ticket. It's an honor system. It costs so little, 4 kopecks or about 6 cents, for any distance, that cheating is unheard of. If the bus is crowded and you can't get to the ticket machine, quite often other passengers will put the money in for you. Lydia has lunch at the depot canteen. It costs about 60 cents. Surprisingly, we found that some food is sold at a retail price, below what it costs to produce. This is because prices are fixed jointly by the state and the trade unions, so that basic necessities are cheap, though luxury items like vodka are expensive. A bottle of vodka costs $15. Lydia has always driven the same route, beginning near the Kremlin at the city centre, along Anniversary of the Revolution Street, down Gorky and Leningrad Prospect Street, to Route 20's terminus at a bend in the Moscow River.
Tonight.
Many people own their own homes in smaller towns, but in Moscow it's rare. Lydia, her husband Victor and their daughter Svetlana, like most other Muscovites, come home to a rented state-owned apartment when their day's work is over. They have a kitchen, a bathroom, 1 bedroom and a living room where Svetlana sleeps on a convertible settee. The apartment is small, but the family pays a very small rent, about $17 a month. This is because all rents are pegged to about 3 or 4% of the total family income. Lydia says she doesn't have to count every penny. They spend a lot on clothes, household items and linen, have holidays every year and often go to see films and plays. Once a family has been allocated an apartment, they can stay there as long as they want, and it can be passed on from one generation to the next. Svetlana is in her first year at an aviation college. She's studying aeronautical engineering, and she's paid an allowance of about $75 a month. She says that her studies and her career are the most important things for her, and that she has no time for boyfriends or romance at present. Lydia is proud of her daughter, but hinted that she wasn't sure that Svetlana was telling us the full story.
Алло. Да. Елена, мы сейчас не можем с тобой разговаривать.
There's a long waiting list for telephones, but once they're installed, they're cheap, especially as local calls are free.
Ну у нас гости.
Lydia's husband, Victor, is a bus driver too. He drives a minibus, and tonight he's on the late shift. When he comes home, he'll find his dinner in the oven because she and Svetlana are going to the theatre.
Да. Хорошо? Ну все.
Lydia and Svetlana catch the train to the theatre. The metro is the fastest means of public transport, with trains running every 2 or 3 minutes. 11 lines link the outer suburbs with the city circle, which passes deep under the Moscow River. The fare is 7 cents for any distance in one direction. For their spectacular size and rich decorations, the Metro underground stations are understandably famous. There are more than 40 theatres in Moscow, only 3 of them subsidised by the state, and they are the ones with training establishments like the world-renowned Moscow Art Theatre. The rest have to rely on the box office take. But tickets are cheap at about $2.50, and Muscovites are avid theatre goers, so the theatres are always packed. These are the singers, dancers and musicians of the Veryovka folk ensemble from the Ukraine. The bread and salt ceremoniously offered to the audience as a gesture of welcome is a tradition as old as the rich folk culture they celebrate. Russians are intensely interested in folk art and cultural history. These traditional songs and dances remind them, they say, of the strength and humour and the capacity for joy of the ordinary people of earlier times. In Moscow, people were rugging up for the coming winter. But in Odessa, 1,500 kilometres south, the climate's very different. It's the most popular holiday resort in the Ukraine. About 300,000 visitors come here every year to enjoy the sea and sun or to take advantage of the health resorts. Nikolai Timun is a waterside worker at the Odessa docks. His wife, Maya, grew up on a collective farm, but later, like so many other young people, left the farm for a more exciting life in the city. She was working as a shop assistant when she and Nikolai first met and fell in love. Nikolai was a professional soldier then, a sergeant in a regiment stationed near Odessa. Little Sergei's arrival was something of a surprise, his father says. He wasn't in the family's 5-year plan. Family planning is common in much of Russia. More and more young couples limit their families to one child. Their oldest son, Vladimir, works in a wallpaper factory. In a year's time, he'll be going into the army too. Not so much following in Nikolai's footsteps, but because all young men must do 2 years national service training. Odessa is on the shores of the Black Sea, near the mouths of 4 great rivers, and accessible to foreign ships through the Dardanelles. It's Russia's largest seaport. In the Second World War, the German army stormed Odessa, and it was defended desperately for 69 days, but then had to be abandoned to the invaders. Before they were finally driven out, the Nazis almost completely destroyed the city and mined the harbour. But the Russian survivors, mostly women, had the port back in operation in 6 months. It took 10 more years to fully repair the damage. These heroic efforts were honoured by the title Odessa, Hero City of the Soviet Union. Nikolai is the leading hand in his team of 20. There are several different Soviet nationalities among them: Russians, Ukrainians, Bulgarians, Moldavians. 5, including Nikolai, are Communist Party members. The team always works together, and as well as being workmates, they've become close friends. Today they're unloading a cargo of raw sugar from Cuba. Dock work is hard work, so it has a high status in the Soviet Union. High status usually means higher pay, and Nikolai earns up to $600 a month, more than the captain of a ship or an executive in a factory. A lot of women work at the dock: clerical workers, cleaners, canteen attendants and machine operators, but they don't do the heavier, higher paid jobs. Production teams compete to handle more and more cargo. Winners are publicly congratulated and rewarded with money bonuses or citations on charts like these. Nikolai's team won the competition last month and are consistent winners. The shift ends at 5 o'clock and the team showers and changes, but they're not going home just yet. Nikolai and his workmates usually meet after work at one of the taverns before going home to their families. The beer costs about 60 cents for a pint. Now the work unit becomes a social unit. And this was a feature of life we observed again and again. There seems to be no sharp cut-off point between work and leisure. Although they're relaxing here and having a good time, they still talk about serious matters: work targets, work performance. The men themselves are responsible for good work discipline, and they're the ones who'll bring pressure to bear on a workmate who is not shaping up, or offer help if there is a personal problem. These days, more and more families own cars. In other years, the state had a low priority on the manufacture of private cars, but this has changed. Now they're all snapped up as quickly as they come off the production line. All Nikolai had to do was to join the waiting list, then pay $9,000 in cash. There's no hire purchase here. Maya gave up her job when Sergei was born and devotes her time to looking after the family, which now includes her mother, who came to live with them when her husband died. Most families have TV, but Nikolai's $900 colour set shows the high income of a wharf labourer. Maya wanted to look after little Sergei herself instead of sending him to a kindergarten. But Sergei isn't happy with this arrangement now. Most of the children he knows in the apartment block go to kindergarten every day. He asks his parents why he can't go too. He says it's not fair. They have all the fun while he has to stay at home. His mother is resigned to the fact that sooner or later he'll have his own way. On their days off, some of Nikolai's workmates and their wives go shopping together. Group shopping is popular because in a country without consumer advertising, people rely on word-of-mouth tips and phone calls from friends about where the bargains can be found. Soviet-made goods have improved in range and quality in recent times. Strongly made, warm clothing is plentiful and easily afforded. Sometimes the stores get in shipments of goods from East Bloc countries like Poland and Czechoslovakia. As imports, they have novelty value and they're snapped up as soon as they go on display, even though they're more expensive than the local product. The mild climate makes it pleasant to stroll along Primorsky Boulevard to the famous Potemkin Steps. As well as a permanent circus, there are 6 theatres, including the Opera House, which is said to be one of the finest traditional theatres in the Soviet, along with the Bolshoi in Moscow and the Kirov in Leningrad. Almost totally destroyed by the Nazis, it was painstakingly restored using tons of real gold. Dancers like these enjoy high social status too, with incomes well above the national average. Outstanding performers are awarded publicly with titles like Honoured Artists of the USSR, and they often receive salaries that would place them in the wealthiest class of their society. Visions of dreadful exile, terrifying remoteness and freezing temperatures. Siberians will look at you with stunned disbelief if you put that idea to them, and they'll ask, remote from what? But it's cold, all right. In winter, the temperature drops to 50 degrees below zero. Today is just 13 below. However, that doesn't discourage this family from a picnic and a bit of duck shooting in the forest, or taiga, as it's called.
Охотники стреляют. Выстрела.
Only a small number of Soviet people, about 6 in every 100, are Communist Party members. Maria Konyukova is an important and active party member, and she has received the Soviets' highest honour for her party work, the Order of Lenin. Maria and her husband and son, both named Nikolai, and their friend Vitaly Mazurenko, all work at the Bratsk timber complex. But like most Siberians, they see life here as more than just a home and a job. They say it's a challenge. The men and women who come here to explore the country, to build the new bridges, dams, railways and factories, have a true pioneering zeal. They say it isn't a soft life we've chosen, it's a testing life. What we achieve is for the future, for the good of everyone. This is their belief, and the belief inspires them. The rigours of the climate are positively beneficial, according to Nikolai. He says, a thermometer that goes up and down like ours does prepares us well for the ups and downs of life. The Irkutsk region is immensely rich in timber and mineral deposits. The Bratsk timber complex, where Maria and her family work, is one of the many huge industries recently built by people who have come to Siberia from all over the Soviet. It converts timber into many byproducts. Maria works day shift, and she always arrives at work half an hour early to carry out some of her Communist Party work. This involves her being available to her fellow workers, mostly women here, to offer assistance and advice with any problems they may have, not only in relation to work, but with personal problems as well. She makes a point of speaking to everyone. She sees it as her duty to help them, especially if it results in a better work performance. Maria is in charge of one of the control rooms which direct the operation of 2 enormous plants which convert timber to cellulose. The plant is highly automated using technology imported from Sweden. Her son Nikolai started work at the complex when he finished his 2 years national service training. His mother and father say they'd like to see him get married and settle down, because they'd like to move on to a new pioneering development at Ust-Ilimsk, but he says he's enjoying his freedom too much at present. Nikolai works in another almost identical control room. Between them, the family earns more than twice as much as an average family in European Russia. Maria says that there are very few food shortages, although some foods have to be imported great distances and they're expensive. The high salaries take these additional costs into account, as well as helping to attract more people to the new Siberian cities and industries. Vodka is regarded as an expensive luxury in some parts, but the climate here makes it a necessity, so Nikolai claims. The family lives in a 2-bedroom apartment on the top floor of a 5-storey block near the centre of the city. As usual, the rent and running costs are low, and the rooms are small, but it's comfortable and adequate. It's the end of the working week, and Maria and her husband are looking forward to spending some time at their dacha, their holiday cottage. Maria's preparing some food to take with them. That's if Nikolai can sort out a problem with the car, which is cold weather cranky. But he's a very good do-it-yourself mechanic. Dachas range in size from little shacks on small allotments to large country homes. Land is allocated by local authorities and the houses are privately built and paid for. They can be bought, sold or exchanged, but owners have no title to the land itself. Maria and Nikolai spend many hours in the garden. It's their favourite hobby. During the short growing season, Maria likes growing fruit and vegetables, which she can pickle or preserve. Young Nikolai has his own interests and enough money of his own to indulge them. In the Russia, one of the city's two main hotels. There are many cocktail bars, nightclubs and discos too, where young people enjoy each other's company. But there's no real notion of a teenage cult or even of a young generation, which is somehow different and apart from the rest of the community. Most of the young people we met, including Nikolai and his friends, were well-read and well-informed and articulate on a variety of subjects. On this occasion, the conversation turned to historic Russian films, which ones they liked, which film directors they liked and why. Nikolai considers himself to be a bit of an authority on this subject. Looking after a household, holding down a full-time job, plus her Communist Party commitments, keep Maria busy.
Dear children, you heard my biography, my past years, my childhood after the war. I'm very glad and proud that I completed my studies and that I gained a profession. I'm proud of it. I like my job, at which I have worked for 26 years. What I want to say to all of you, that's not necessary to be an engineer or a doctor or a teacher. You have to be a person, a hard-working person. You must like your job and choose a profession which will suit you.
Maria's voluntary duty here is to address the senior students of the school which her son Nikolai formerly attended. They're all members of Komsomol, the Young Communist League, and the purpose of meetings like this is to bring young people in touch with grassroots party people like Maria, people who exemplify the communist ideal, to inspire them by her example.
И выступала перед нашими пионерами, а пионеры вручали Марии Александровне рапорт о своих славных делах.
When the meeting is over, the school principal presents Maria with a photograph, which the children have developed and printed while she was speaking. Maria gets ready for another of her social duties, but she qualifies this by saying that it will be really more of a pleasure than a duty.
Marriage is a union of two people who deeply love each other and have decided to go through life together. The family is the most important unit of the Soviet state. Soviet law protects and honors the family. With the entry into the marriage bond, you are gaining new civic rights and also new civic responsibilities. The main moral principle of the Soviet family is the sense of responsibility for happiness and life. I ask you both to come to the table.
Vladimir Chishikov, welder, marries Maria Popova, a plasterer by trade. Maria often represents the Soviet District Council at events like this, which are important to the ordinary people. It's the custom for newlyweds to make a pilgrimage to one of the memorials to those who were killed in the Second World War, which the Soviet people call the Great Patriotic War. Memories of the long-ago war are still very vivid in the minds of the Russian people. It wasn't until later that we began to understand why this was so. At the bridegroom's parents' house, the couple are welcomed by their new families with the traditional bread and salt.
Бери булку и кусай, сколько ты укусишь, какой ты будешь.
Кусай, не ломай.
Давай, кусай. Не говори, грязанин. Я-то не укушу.
С другой стороны.
О, тогда...
А ну побольше.
Надо было бы, да, им посолить. Вот. Солью надо, солью вам.
Горько!
The guests are chanting bitter, bitter. The ritual signifies that the vodka needs sweetening and that the young couple must sweeten it for them with a kiss.
Ой, деда!
The film crew's presence here wasn't planned until the night before the wedding, when we were invited to come. As the evening went on, we were caught up in a flood of kind-hearted hospitality and a spontaneous warmth and friendship, which we came to find was characteristic of Russian people.
Горько!
In any society, Maria would be an extraordinary woman. She has no secret power, earns no extra money, lives in a house no better than anyone else's. But her wholehearted involvement in voluntary social work, her zest for life, and her commitment to her communist ideal seems never-ending. This is an instrumental section of the Veryovka ensemble. The strange instruments and haunting music are uniquely Ukrainian and centuries old. The folk dances, songs and music express the sense of history and tradition so deeply felt by the Russian people. Reconstructions of ancient villages, exact in every detail, like this one in the countryside near Kiev, are immensely popular with visitors. In 1917, over 80% of Russian people were agricultural peasants, living in small villages like this. Today, 30% still live in the countryside. Collective farming dates back to the first five-year plan in 1929. In the beginning, progress was slow. The collectives were too small and too numerous. Some people were reluctant to share their few possessions. But a government, committed to rapid change, began a determined drive to improve conditions, first by paying higher prices for the produce, amalgamating small farms into larger, more economical ones, providing modern housing and services, and above all, by the introduction of intensive mechanisation. This equipment is owned by the Belarusian farm collective called Novi Put, which means the new life. It's an amalgamation of 25 older-style collectives into one farming community of 1,000 families. Instead of the usual multi-storey apartment blocks, the people of this collective farm prefer to live in the more homely duplex buildings. One of these is the home of Vyacheslav Bondarovich, a soil and plant scientist employed by the collective, and his wife Galina and their daughter Natasha. Vyacheslav is from Minsk, the capital of Belarusia, and his wife Galina was born in this village. The Soviet government claims that not only is every citizen guaranteed a job, but now with advanced socialism, husbands and wives are both guaranteed jobs in the same district. This wasn't always so. Natasha is 9 and she's in 3rd grade at school. Her routine is very different from most school children. The school she attends runs 2 shifts, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And Natasha is in the afternoon shift. This will continue for another year until the new school is built. Instead of doing her homework after school, she does it in the mornings. She says she spends 2 or 3 hours every morning at her desk, and then after that, she goes out and plays with her friends. Winter has set in early in Belarusia, and the potato crop must be quickly harvested before it's frozen in the ground, which happened the previous year when there was a sudden, unexpected freeze. This collective farms about 7,500 hectares, about 18,000 acres, and it's very profitable. Profits are turned back into housing, amenities, and increased pay for the collective farmers and their families. There are 15 mechanical harvesters, but still some potatoes are left behind, and these college students pick up the rest by hand. It's a tradition for students to spend part of their vacation working at one job or another. These students said that it wasn't just for money, though that was important, but they said it was a chance to experience real life, to make new friends and to do something practical. Some surplus crop is covered with straw to protect it from the frost. They say that Belarusian farmers have over 100 recipes for potatoes, including a very potent and illegal home-brewed vodka. Natasha gets ready for school. Galina comes home every day to have lunch with her daughter and to see her off. Today they're having borscht, a soup made with beetroot and sour cream. Afternoon shift at school starts at 2:30 and ends at 6. Natasha says she'd really prefer to go to school in the mornings, but she explains that morning shift is reserved for the children who come in from the outer districts by bus. They are learning the Belarusian language, the native tongue of their own republic. It's related to the Russian language, and this is also taught at the school. 50 years ago, 90% of the rural population couldn't read or write. Natasha's generation will all be literate and have a sound basic education. Throughout the entire Soviet Union, with its great range of different ethnic groups and languages, the school curriculum is exactly the same. Natasha has the same educational opportunities as children living in the bigger cities. For working mothers, preschools and kindergartens are essential. They're not free, but the state pays 80% of the cost. These little ones in traditional Belarusian costumes, lovingly embroidered by mothers and grandmothers, showed us a dance they're learning. Kuban is between the Black and Caspian Sea. The climate is warmer here, and the fishermen from Planirovskaya village make an early start. The morning promises a lovely day. Work starts early at the bakery too, and the irresistible smell of fresh baked loaves is everywhere. Wheat is the main crop in the Kuban district, so the bread here is mostly made of wheat flour, and like Soviet bread everywhere, it's cheap. These loaves sell for less than 10 cents to the local people, and they're much appreciated in nearby towns where they sell for twice as much. 200 years ago, Catherine the Great gave the land to the Cossacks, the fierce soldier farmers who had settled here. In return, they promised to go into battle at first call, which was how the famous Cossack cavalry began. The village today is the centre of a large farming enterprise, the Kirov Collective Farm. It provides a livelihood for 13,000 people, of whom 2,000 are retired pensioners. Feodosi Kondiatsky and his wife Anya have both retired and draw a pension from the collective. Retiring age is 60 years for men and 55 for women. People may continue to work if they wish without their pension being affected, and Feodosi likes to work a few hours a week as a watchman to continue in the mainstream of life, he says. Both are old enough to remember the terrible hardships endured by their parents before the revolution. People were just serfs then, Feodosi remembers. They could be bought and sold with the land they worked on. After the revolution, times were still hard for a while. Then collective farming came in. Getting it started, Feodosi says, was hardest. People weren't used to the idea of putting their cow in with other people's cows. They're afraid it would fail. But when some of us tried it for a while, others could see that it was the best way, and they wanted to come to the collective too. Sharing the work, sharing the good with the bad, made things better. Anya says, things are good now, never have been better. You should ask the young ones. They'll tell you. They wouldn't want the old days back, believe me. Beside the main crop, wheat, other produce is grown in the Kuban district. Barley, melons, tobacco, corn and sugar beet. The hard-working chairman of the Kirov Collective is Khamed Bargov. Despite a heart attack last year, he hasn't slowed down much. He keeps in contact with every section of the cooperative by radio, and he coordinates all the operations. The wheat harvest is finished, and his main concern now is the corn crop. Today is the last day of the corn harvest, and the teams have been working long hours to bring it in on schedule. Khamed is on a fixed salary, and he earns about $600 a month, which is about the same as the director of a large factory. The farm machinery operators are highly paid. The tractor and combine harvest drivers and the mechanics earn as much as skilled workers in the cities, up to $375 a month. The workload varies a lot during the year. It's intense at harvest time, but less so at other times, especially in the winter. But pay packets are averaged out over the year so that workers can plan their household budgets, and with any luck and a good crop, there's a lump sum bonus at the end of the year. The Kirov Cooperative makes an annual profit of nearly $7 million. Khamed is chiefly responsible for the entire operation. Later in the day, he gets some good news. The harvest is in and on schedule. There are 4 schools on the collective, and the children have been allowed out of school to help finish the harvesting by husking the corn. The idea that work is something honest and honourable, something to respect, is constantly impressed on children. Involving them in work like this makes the point strongly. As well as being paid for their work, every school class has been given a production target, and the winners will win a week's holiday to Moscow and Leningrad to visit the theatre, art galleries and museums. There is a great interest in cultural things, even in the remote farming areas. This is the collective's Palace of Culture, where over 500 amateur performers train in a wide range of activities.
Молодого
It's an old Cossack song that tells a story about a village boy and unrequited love. This is the collective's Cossack choir, and one of its most enthusiastic members is Feodosi Kondiatsky. We wanted to find out more about the lives of women who work on the farms. Zina Makina works at one of the collective's dairies. She works broken shifts, and between the morning and afternoon milkings, she has time to work at home in her vegetable garden. Today, her mother helps her dig the potato crop. Zina's husband, Nikolai, a tractor driver, has already left for work, and her 9-year-old son, Victor, has gone to school. Every family here has a privately owned garden producing vegetables for their own use, and if there's a surplus, they sell it to add to their regular income. With winter coming and the short growing season over, Zina stores the potatoes safely under the floorboards in her son's room. All families on the farm receive an allocation of grain as part of their pay. The government encourages the development of these privately owned enterprises, and considering that they produce over a quarter of the country's fruit, vegetables and eggs, it's easy to understand why. There's no unemployment in the Soviet. The Constitution says that everyone who wants to work is guaranteed a job. On the collective farms at harvest times, there's plenty of work for everyone. But at other times, especially in the winter, it's harder to find full-time employment. This collective has started building a new freezing plant which will preserve 1,000 tons of apples, as well as a new cannery and a dairy complex. When these are completed, there'll be enough year-round employment for everyone. The collective shopping centre is small, but there's a food store, a beauty parlour, a pharmacy and a general store. We were told that there was a waiting list for only 2 items in short supply. They were cars and carpet, which Russian people like to hang on their walls. Krasnodar, the capital of the region, is only 80 kilometres away, about an hour's ride on the bus. People from the collective often go into town for a day's shopping. Women come to sell flowers and other produce from their gardens. It's sometimes said that there is one privileged class in the Soviet, and that's children. The state lavishes huge amounts of money on the care and education of children from the time they are born. Women are entitled to 112 days maternity leave on full pay, which can also be shared by the father. An allowance is paid on the birth of the child, and after that, child endowment. For women who choose to work, and 80% do, preschool childcare is essential. The demand is increasing and many new creches are being established, but there is still not enough. It's 3 o'clock. And Zina sets off for the dairy for the afternoon milking. The collective has 3 large dairies and a herd of over 3,000 cows. Zina works in the milking shed of this one, which milks 1,000 cows twice a day. Most of the milk is sold to the state, but once the state quota is met, any extra milk can be sold privately by contract for much higher prices. This benefits everyone in the collective, so it's a great incentive for increased production. The milk bought by the state goes to a condensed milk factory in a nearby town, Karanovsk, where about 500 employees turn out 50 million tins of condensed milk a year. Top performing groups in the cities often go on country tours, and when the Kuban Cossack Choir came with a performance of the village's own song, they were enthusiastically welcomed. Young people is better educated than their parents. They have different expectations of life. The urge to leave the farms for more interesting jobs in the city is very strong. But with increased mechanisation, more specialist jobs are being created. There's always work for mechanics, engineers and fitters and turners, the sorts of skills taught at this trade training school. Vladimir Bortnik was a farm labourer when he began his trade training, and now he's a qualified electrician. These technical courses are actively promoted by the collective, and Vladimir jumped at the chance to increase his skills and to earn more money. Vladimir and his family live in the older part of the town, in the house that belonged to his parents. Vladimir's family, like most Russians, are big tea drinkers, and the samovar is always prominent at mealtimes. His wife, Marina, is a teacher at the collective school, and their daughter, Lena, 16, is a student at the same school. Her grandmother, Babushka, lives with them.
Пожалуйста, мама, налей чашку чая, и бабушке тоже.
There's another daughter, Tanya, who's 5, and she's announced that she's not feeling well and she's gone to bed. Her father says she's not sick at all, just shy. Whatever the reason, her mother couldn't coax Tanya out of her bedroom. The old home is due to be pulled down and replaced by modern apartments. Vladimir and his wife and daughter say they'll be pleased to move into something new, with nice modern conveniences. But Babushka disagrees and says, it was good enough for your father and it's good enough for me. The washing up is one of Lena's chores. It's Saturday night, and when she finishes, she's going somewhere special with her friends. They call themselves the Red Rockers. It's a sound that's familiar to young people all over the world, but it would have been frowned on once as Western decadence, especially by older people. But young people usually get their way, and today it's easily accepted. Sexual promiscuity between young people isn't common. Lena says that it can only lead to disillusionment. They usually go out in groups of both sexes until they're 18 or 19, and often marry very young. The divorce rate is high, and the reasons given are marrying too young, and the fact that most Soviet women are now economically independent. The themes of courtship and rejection are universal ones, and they are also the subject of a well-known, light-hearted Russian folk dance. A top soccer team from Moscow has travelled 1,000 kilometres south to Donetsk to challenge the coal miners team. 20,000 miners have turned out to cheer their side to victory. Ivan Zinchenko is a leading hand miner, and for his outstanding work, he's been honoured with the title Hero of Socialist Labour. The game is only one of a series of special events leading up to the annual celebration and holiday, Miners' Day. On the job, Ivan is the leader of a team of men who work underground, the Abakumov coal mine. These men say that in their society, strong leadership is respected. They speak with pride about the way their country has advanced under its communist leadership. They say, "We don't have the uncertainty of your Western society where boom is followed by bust. Things are getting better here all the time, however slowly. Like all jobs involving hard physical labour, coal mining's highly paid. Bonuses for increased production can lift a miner's earnings to $750 a month, which is more than the mine's director gets. Coal mining anywhere is dangerous work too. Ivan's team is responsible for shoring up the roof of the tunnels against the pressure of tons of rock and strata above. Ivan worked on the development of a new coal-cutting machine, and he came to the Abakumov mine to help introduce it. He received the high honour of Hero of Socialist Labour when he became the first man to cut more than 1,000 metres of coal in a month. This figure is often exceeded now, however. The team can work anywhere in the mine because they are trained in all technical skills. Coal miners are entitled to retire on a pension at 50 years of age, 10 years earlier than other workers. Ivan has turned 50, but he chooses to work on, and he receives his pension of $240 a month in addition to his ordinary salary and bonuses. Production goes on around the clock, 24 hours a day. Each shift works 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. The mine produces 5,000 tonnes a day, which it sells to the state. Donetsk coal is high grade. Some of the best coal, they'll tell you, that ever blackened a miner's face. The day shift is over and Ivan's team showers. Some have ray lamp treatment because, like miners everywhere, they don't see much of the sun. In the late afternoon, there's a last-minute dress rehearsal of the Donetsk amateur dancers who will perform tomorrow on Miners' Day. These sons and daughters of miners wear traditional costumes which they have made themselves. And celebrations begin. There'll be amateur entertainment, speeches, bands, food and drink, and of course, the awarding of honour certificates and medals to miners who have earned them by outstanding work records. In the Soviet, every trade is celebrated by a special day. As Hero of Socialist Labour, Ivan is an honoured guest on Miners' Day. There's a special presentation for him, the symbolic gift of bread and salt. Ivan was allotted his house in 1965. He doesn't own the land, but he owns the house, and he's entitled to leave it to his children. Ivan's two married daughters, Tanya and Valentina, with their husbands Valery and Valentin, have been invited to Ivan's home for lunch. Anna and Ina have brought their grandfather a bunch of flowers.
Ну что, все, кончается работа, пошли. Пошли, пошли. Спасибо вам, девушка. Пошли, 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 пошли. Пошли, пошли. Вот, спасибо. 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 Спасибо, спасибо вам. Спасибо.
Ivan's wife, Luba, has only one job, she says, and that's caring for her family. She says that looking after her grandchildren will keep her busy for a few years yet. Both daughters work. Valentina, a university graduate, is an economist at the Coal Research Centre. Tanya is an accounts clerk in a factory. The three men all work underground at the same mine. Valentin is a member of Ivan's team and Valieri is a field engineer. Working life extends into social life and even into family life too.
Спасибо. Ну что? Я хочу с вами лет через 50 встретиться. За этим столом выразить праздник. Так, ну давайте. За все наилучшее.
To sit around a table with family and friends, to eat and drink together through the afternoon and into the night, is something that's at the very heart of family life anywhere in the world. The food is delicious and there's plenty to eat and drink, but what really matters is the conversation, the sense of family closeness and the warmth of the mood. No people suffered more terribly in the Second World War than in the Soviet Union. Nowhere else are the memories of war so alive as today. When the German invasion came, the Russian people faced the possibility that they might perish. With the Nazis almost upon them, whole populations prepared to defend themselves. The catastrophe was on a scale that defies description. Hundreds of Russian villages and towns were bombed and burnt out of existence, with their entire populations. The village Pisk near Kiev was razed to the ground. The most hideous atrocities were committed. Babies were thrown into the fire. The Nazis' object was to destroy everything and starve the people to death. The battles raged for nearly 3 years. In the end, the Soviets' defenders were invincible. The fascist armies collapsed. As the Soviet soldiers advanced, they saw what the Nazis had been doing. They murdered partisans. They murdered communists. They hunted out and murdered Jews. They murdered civilians, women and children. As they retreated, they just murdered. The nation was saved by its soldiers and its people. But in the earth, never to welcome the coming of peace, lay 20 million dead. No wonder they say such things must never happen again. This is the town of Sochi, on what the locals call the Russian Riviera. It's famous for its many health resorts, most of them owned and run by the trade unions. 500,000 people come here every year for rest and health care. Vladimir Samakeshev was shot through the head, leading his platoon in the battle for the liberation of Belarus. Losing the sight of his eye put paid to his ambition to be a surgeon. Instead, he's now chief doctor at one of the health resorts. He considers himself lucky. His wife Valentina's hobby is collecting plates. When Vladimir travels abroad to attend medical conferences, he usually brings her back a few more for a collection. For 13-year-old Volodya, it's a very special day. It's the first day of the new school term, and for a special treat, he's been promised a visit to the circus tonight. At breakfast, they discussed whether he'd have his main meal of the day at school or at his grandmother's house. Volodya said he'd do both, because Grandma always makes him eat something, whether he's hungry or not. Before his parents leave for work, Volodya and his father share a little ritual, a quick game of backgammon. Whoever loses has to pay a forfeit. The loser must wash up the breakfast dishes. Valentina works as a librarian at a different health resort, one run by the Theatrical Performers Union. Vladimir's job rates a chauffeur-driven Volga sedan, and he drops Valentina off at her work before going on to his own. Soviet citizens pay as little as $1.50 for a shared room in a guest house here, and foreign tourists with hard currency have to pay up to 10 times as much. Seekers begin their rituals early on the Sochi beachfront. At home with the washing up done, Volodya gets ready for the first day back at school. The red scarf shows he's a member of the Young Pioneers, the organisation that most school children belong to. Vladimir has been head doctor at this health resort for 11 years. All of the nation's 25 huge industrial unions operate health resorts, and this one, called Metallurg, is run by the Steel Workers Union. Vladimir begins his tour of inspection immediately. In Soviet healthcare, the main emphasis is always on relaxation and preventative medicine. Although Vladimir's job is a top administrative one, the steel workers who are having hypnotherapy treatment almost certainly earn much more than he does. To stay here costs about $8 a day, including full board and treatments. For medical staff, the pay begins at about $175 a month, rising to $200 and more for higher degrees and specialisation. A top salary for a doctor of medicine would rarely exceed $3,000 a year. Vladimir, a party member since his army days, is deeply committed to his profession. He told us that he considers it an honour to look after people's health and well-being rather than purely a source of income. Surgical and dental clinics are available for the care of the 350 guests. There are 26 fully qualified medical staff here, and 24 of them are women. This high proportion of women in the field of medicine is the same everywhere in the Soviet, and Vladimir's job would usually be held by a woman.
Any interesting teeth lately?
I've saved a couple here, somewhere from Spassky, the chess champion. And threw the rest away.
On September the 1st, when school starts again after the summer holiday, it's the custom for children to bring a small present for their teacher. Before classes begin, the children, and sometimes proud parents too, assemble in the playground. The ceremony is familiar now to Volodya, already in his 7th year of the compulsory 10 years of education. The headmistress welcomes them with a speech.
Today, all over the country, children are coming to school, many of them for the first time. You all have new textbooks and beautiful new uniforms. Our motherland has thought about you and always gives the best to her children.
The older students give presents to the little ones to make them feel welcome, and in return they receive gifts of flowers. With this gentle act, 3 months' holiday ends and the new school year begins. This is the Theatrical Performers Health Resort where Valentina works. She says she likes her job and enjoys meeting the famous actors, singers and dancers who come here.
with my friend, and there I go boating. I went boating. I enjoyed my summer holidays because it was very interesting, and I can every day went to, and I could every day went to the beach. Could go to the beach every day.
Yes, all right. Now, children, last year we spoke about London. First of all, what's London?
The school that Volodya goes to runs a special course in English.
London is situated at the British Isles. On the British Isles.
Now, children, I want you to put on the earphones and we shall listen to the lingophone course about London and later.
Schools are co-educational at every stage. The educational system is very demanding with lots of homework, firm discipline and long hours.
Ready?
Children attend school 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. At the school canteen, Volodya decides to have just a light snack before visiting his grandparents. Built this house. His uncle Alexander, a mechanic by trade, also lives here with his new wife Luba and their 4-month-old baby Liena. Luba is a typist, but now she's on a maternity leave. When she starts work again, Grandma will look after Liena, just as she once looked after Volodya. As Volodya expected, his grandmother has prepared something for him to eat. Before dinner, Volodya and his grandfather usually go for a walk together. His grandfather, though comfortably off now, came from a poor peasant family.
How was school today?
Good.
Have you decided yet what you want to be when you grow up? Whatever you do, You'll have to work very hard, so you'll be good at it.
What did you decide to be when you were a little boy?
We didn't have the same opportunities you young ones have today. You have got much more to look forward to.
I'm looking forward to the circus.
I hope you enjoy it.
We found the ordinary people in the Soviet to be no different from ourselves, sharing the same needs and hopes to love and be loved, to get on in the world, to feel secure, and sometimes to have a bit of fun.
We invite you to stay with Tin now for the golden years of Hollywood. Tonight, Errol Flynn stars in The Charge of the Light Brigade, followed by Frank Sinatra in Higher and Higher. And at 6:30 tomorrow night, John Law's World brings you the exciting premiere special, Mississippi Challenge.